welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. I'm Molly Herford, and when I'm not outside running or riding or something to that effect, I'm probably inside writing about it.
And I'm Peter Glassford. I'm a registered kinesiologist and an endurance coach, and you are here on the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we talk to all types of different movers and athletes and coaches about the different types of movements they do or study, and how we can apply that back to our lives is the takeaway.
That was maybe not our best intro, but
it's okay.
Pretty good.
But that's what we're aiming for. And so we have all sorts of different people from organizations and races, and that's today, right? We have mostly discussions of races.
Yeah, we have race promoters and racers on today's podcast. But first up, we've had a pretty busy couple weeks. I raced a 50K, just like a fun local one in New Jersey. And
Trail running,
yeah. And super excited. It was my first overall win where I actually beat the dudes
Beat all
too.
the men.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that was super fun. Really cool event called the Wildcat Ridge Romp in New Jersey. So it was a very hometown race for me. And yeah, beautiful day. Really fun single track. It was a looped course. And it turns out I really like looped courses. I feel like this is not a surprise for anyone who's run or ridden with me. But I found it was really easy to, once you got the first 10-mile loop done, it was kind of easy to get through the second. And I'm not going to lie, the third was a little exhausting, but it was great kind of knowing what was coming and not really being nervous and being like, oh, okay, I know I'm going to miss the bridge again, and I need to make sure that I take that right turn. And,
right.
I know, okay, there's going to be 3 really steep little popper climbs that are going to hurt, but I know, the last mile or 2 miles isn't going to be that bad. So it was, really fun to be able to kind of practice my pacing a little bit more than I necessarily would on a course I didn't know.
Right. Yeah, it definitely helps. You can compare even for pacing. I know with coaching, it's nice when people do lapped-based races because we sort of have this built-in comparison of how did we pace and how did the race sort of evolve?
Yeah.
And then there's also the technical piece, right? Like you even in running, you can send it a little harder on descents once you know sort of what's coming. And like you say, with slippery bridges and so forth.
Yeah, I was really excited because at the end, the race director looked at my times and he was super stoked because my laps differed by, I think, 2 minutes a lap. But it was always within that 2 minutes. So that was really exciting. So yeah, super fun race, really well run. Small, but super well run. So really stoked on that. I got to go down to Virginia Beach for a few days, do some good work down there, get in some nice chill runs and walks, and I attempted to surf a couple times. That did not go super well. I get really embarrassed about surfing in front of people because I'm terrible. So I kept trying to go out at like 6 a.m, but it's not, with surfing, you're kind of trying to go at the best tide, not the best time. So I kept showing up when there were no waves.
Right.
But, I tried.
Well, I guess you were in the water.
Yeah.
So that's something.
I swam a bunch. I did yoga on the beach. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I was at the Pennsylvania NICA, so the U.S.'s High School Mountain Bike League had a girls' camp, their GRIT camp, this past week, and I got to show up for a couple days and hang out with 45 amazing young women and ride with them and hang out and practice handstands on the lawn and just so much fun stuff.
Yeah, it's great. Really good organization there, doing some good stuff, getting people out having fun on bikes and moving.
Yes, and of course the topic of back to school shopping came up a bunch, and that inspired me to put up a couple of new colorways and styles over on the Shred Girls shop page. So that's shred-girls.com/shop, and you can get some, I made some Ride Bikes Get Rad beach towels. I've been using one for the last couple months, and it's actually a really nice beach towel, I'm not going to lie, and it's kind of perfect whether you're, racing cyclocross and you need to be able to wipe some mud off after the races, or you have some beach trips coming up, or you're heading to college and you want a towel for, from the dorm to the shower kind of situation that still is, really speaks to you.
Right. Aligned with your pursuits and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. And
nice.
Peter, what have you been up to?
Busy week with cyclocross is sort of starting here as far as people wanting to get excited and do dismounts and stuff. So I had a couple clinics last week, a couple one-on-one sessions, which is good. And then went right into mountain bike stage race, which was pretty wild. Going from like raced last weekend, cross country, short sort of hard race, and then right into clinics basically all week. Traveling up north and then racing 3-day stage race, Crank the Shield, which was really good, very hard. And then driving all the way back home last night. So
yeah, we were kind of driving from like south and north, heading towards the same destination.
Yeah, but it was good, really good. Like mountain bike stage racing is just like going to summer camp, and
yeah,
so really cool. Met a lot of cool people. Got to do a little talk one night, which seemed to go over okay, which was good. And yeah, just really good. Old friends, new friends, like people like connected by several, degrees of people. So that's sort of neat. Really, really good weekend.
So I like that because it leads really neatly into today's guests, because the first one we have is the COO of the Colorado Classic, Lucy Diaz. And for those of you who haven't heard about the Colorado Classic, it's I think it's 3-day bike race that goes on in Colorado, obviously. It's been going for a couple years now, but this year is super special because they're actually doing just women's field, which is pretty amazing. I can't actually think of another race that does the same, where it just complete priority is the women racers. It's going to be amazing. It's on actually later this week, so you can find out all about how to tune in and check it out. They're going to be live streaming the whole thing. It's really exciting.
So this week is, what are we? It'll be like the week of August 19th?
I believe it starts on the 22nd, this Thursday.
Of 2019, okay.
Yeah, so very exciting. And then we have Juliet Elliot, who, as you listed this week, you're like cross-country, cyclocross, mountain bike stage race. Juliet would look at that schedule and just be like, that's nothing. She has done every kind of bike racing, from fixed gear crits to enduro mountain bike racing to a little bit of dirt jumping. She's gotten really into bikepacking this summer. If you follow her adventures on her website, Bikes and Stuff, she does a ton of really great YouTube videos around it. She was kind of one of the first, I'll say, cycling YouTubers out there, and her content is amazing. So it was really exciting to kind of get to chat with her about what it means to be I'm going to call it multidisciplinary cyclist. And we get some tips on kind of all of the different disciplines that she does. We talk about how she fuels her training, how she balances all of it between family and work, and actually staying, in shape to do all of these different disciplines. So I think we could call her the consummate cyclist for sure.
Nice.
Although
she sounds like she fits the mold for sure.
And she even snuck in a few CrossFit workouts too. So she's kind of all over the place.
Nice. All
right, let's dive in. Enjoy this conversation with Juliet Elliot. But first, we'll hear from Lucy Diaz about the Colorado Classic.
The Colorado Classic is, we started it in 2017. And really our vision from day one was to look at the sport of cycling and road cycling specifically, and look at it in a different way, and really trying to create a model that drives sustainability. Particularly here in Colorado, we've had a lot of, our history, and, the events of the past have been prolific, from the Course Classic to the Red Zinger, and then more recently with the U.S. Pro Challenge. And cycling in Colorado really go hand in hand, from a competitive perspective, from a lifestyle, from off-road, from everything. It is such part of the culture and the community here in Colorado. Mm-hmm. So as we started Colorado Classic in year one, 2017, we said, okay, well, let's do this, but let's do this a little bit differently. And it would be lying if I told you, you can look through our history of what we've done, and I'll walk through that here in a second. We're trying to figure out what works and what makes a difference, and really what is something that we're proud of and that the community can get behind. And you even just said it, that you're not necessarily interested in road cycling, and that's a pretty common response that we get from people.
Yeah.
But how do we create an event, and how do we create a road cycling event specifically that engages the community, that brings fans out, and that really lives on year after year? So our first iteration in 2017, we took down the duration of the event. We brought it down from traditionally, and what Pro Challenge had done was, about a 7-day event. And we brought it down to 4 days. And we brought it down to 4 days, and we shortened the routes themselves, not in duration, but just in distance. And we had multiple loops. So what we were doing there was really trying to get, create a hub around the start-finish line, have a similar, a shared start-finish line. So people can come and watch the start, they can go to the expo, then they can, be around for the finish. So it was really, as we took a step back and we looked at the model, we tried a lot of different things. We tried a music festival with it. We did, 4 days of racing, 4 days of men, 2 days of women, 4 days of women, 4 days of men. And really, as we look towards 2019, and we'd had great momentum, and we'd had great event to build on, but we just felt that we hadn't really figured it out yet. We really didn't have a model that we were all aligned on and proud of. And it's not even alignment. It's just, and it's not even pride really. It's really about something that, something that's different, something that makes a difference, and something that the community is going to embrace. So, we looked at it, and we looked kind of at all the different angles. And as we decided for what 2019 would be, we just kept going back to this concept of, well, what about the women? The women's side of the sport is so underserved. The women's side of a lot of sports are so underserved. But
amen.
Cycling, yeah, right. But road cycling particularly is really this. It's such a disproportionate model. And I mean, everybody knows about the Tour de France, and, the teams that are competing in the Tour de France on the men's side is, the top teams are, the average teams are, their team budgets are $17 million, right? That's crazy, because the women's team budgets average $200,000. So it's like, it's not even in the same stratosphere as far as I'm concerned as it relates to support. And, there's no one reason for that. I mean, the men's sport is so much farther developed than the women's sport, but that's really what we looked at. And that's where we saw is nothing but opportunity. And really, if we can be a catalyst for change within the sport, within the women's side of the sport, and create a model, an event model that brings in the elements that the women want, and quite honestly, that the women need to continue to grow and continue to stay committed and focused on the growth of the sport, and, have UCI take notice, the governing body, have sponsors, have USA Cycling, have all the parties that are involved really stop and think, wow, this is a viable model. This is a sustainable model. This is something that we need to focus on. And everyone's doing. I mean, UCI is talking about it. USA Cycling is talking about women's racing and how we can help propel it forward. So, this is not necessarily anything new. But I think for us, it's like we really wanted to jumpstart and just be noisy and really be very proud and be very vocal about what we want to do and the change that we can affect as an event. And our vision is we want to be the best women's race in the world in 5 years. And, we're taking step by step, and we've done a lot of interviews and conversations with riders. We've done surveys with the women that are riding in the peloton today, and say, what is it that you want, and what is going to make a difference in your career and, on your team and with your sponsors and all of that. And those are the elements that we're pulling together. And, we feel really excited and proud of the event that, gosh, that's happening starting next week. For all the riders that are coming, and we've had a great outpouring of support, not only from, the rider community, but from the community in Colorado and beyond, from the business community, from the sponsorship community, and people really coming together and seeing and understanding and seeing our vision of, again, what an event can do to drive change and to propel the sport forward. So we're really excited about that. And, it is, again, it all comes back to opportunity, and the men have, 3 times as many days to race in a year than the women do. So let's create these 4 days here in Colorado, something that we can build upon, and we can continue to push the limits and improve year after year.
I love that. I think it's so smart, and it's such a great time, I think, to be a woman in cycling, because more and more of these kind of things are coming up, and it's so awesome to see. It's coming up. It's by the time this podcast airs, it's only going to be a couple days away. So first of all, talk about the pledge for women's cycling that you guys have on the website with the hashtag #WeRide.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, again, when we were in the planning process and throughout the whole, the past year really of sculpting the Colorado Classic and what it's going to be, we felt that it was important to really use our platform and unite our community and educate our community around really the disparity in sport. And that's what the pledge is all about. And the pledge is saying, we believe that women's cycling deserves more. And we believe that, again, all women's sports deserve more. But it really was an awareness, outreach and tactic to say, this is what's happening in the sport of cycling, right? And we have our opinions on it, and we're not pushing our opinions on anybody else. But we want people to understand and the communities to understand that there is this disparity between sport. And together, we can help to bridge this gap. And, that comes in a lot of different forms. So, having the pledge and having our platform and asking people to, be a part of it, and be a part of the solution. Because, one of the problems is lack of viewership and lack of, attendance at events. So if we can make, the communities aware to come out and watch the race. If you're here in Colorado, tune in to our live stream of the race. And show your support for women's cycling. And the pledge was a great entry point to that, awareness and then engagement around it. And it's been wildly successful. And, the riders have appreciated it. And it's really this moment of codification within the sport. And again, within all sports and of all ages. And, I use it personally as a way to talk to my kids. I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. And my poor kids, they hear this all the time. It's like when mom takes work home, gosh, this is what's happening. But, my son came up to me the other day and he said, Mom, is it true that women can do anything that men can do? Oh. And, it was so sweet. And I was so proud because, he clearly is listening to that. And it's, just in society, it's like men do this, women do that. But as a 6-year-old, him hearing that message and having that resonate is really powerful. And that was part of the pledge. We have these pledge, We Ride bracelets. And again, it's about unity and coming together and, all ages, all genders, all sports, understanding that it is, it's something powerful. If that we support one another, we can move forward and get better. So the pledge has been great, and we continue to talk about it. And the hashtag We Ride has been, this really powerful, saying and pledge and moment to really rally around.
Oh, I love it. And tell everyone how they can, get to the pledge and watch the race. Like, let's talk about the fact that you're actually going to be live streaming the race and people can, finally watch a race happening in real life for women.
I know. I know. And that's great. So, to speak to the first point, our website, which is coloradoclassic.com, if you go on there, there's more information. There's actually a pop-up that will come out, will come up that educates you around the pledge. And it's just, the ask is enter your email. You're part of the, the pledge group, and then we'll be able to push messaging out to you, particularly as it relates to the broadcast of the event. So, one of the things when we were doing these interviews and conversations with riders was, what is it that you want, in the race? And, above prize money, and we have a really nice prize purse at $75,000 this year, but above prize money, the response was exposure and broadcast of the event. Because unfortunately, a lot of times if there's a men's and a women's event together in cycling, the men's event is telecast and broadcast, but the women's event isn't, right? And again, it's, unfortunately, in the way that the easiest way to understand it is women's events, and even in ours, we're always seen as the plus one to the men's event. So the men's event was the main action, and the women's was an event that happened, on either side, maybe before the men's or after the men's race. But
right.
With us going 100% on women, and obviously dedicating our vision and our event to women cyclists. Having telecast and having broadcast around the event is so important, because if they do this race in Colorado for 4 days, that's great, but the world doesn't get to see them. So we have committed and worked really hard, and the team has done a fantastic job, because it's really expensive to produce all of this coverage over, 200 plus miles in the backwoods of Colorado in some instances. But the team has done a great job at pulling together and really working creatively to be able to capture the race from start to finish every day. So for 4 days of racing, there's one portion of the course in Steamboat that will not have coverage due to no cell coverage in that area. And that's how we transmit the signal through cellular coverage. So, but we will, by and large, we will have start to finish coverage of the event. And that's so important because not only does it allow us as spectators to watch and follow along on the race, but it allows the teams, and their sponsors to have exposure, and the teams to be able to really show off what they do, show that off to sponsors, show that off to fans, show that off to their social media groups and networks and so on and so forth. But it is such a key element to that. And, we've looked at that, and instead of, we've done in previous instances, we've done time buys on NBC. They put you on at 11:30 at night on a Sunday, not necessarily the great time for viewership. So the team has put together a great package where essentially we've created this syndication network, and we are pushing the live feed out not only on our website and through our social media channels, but through strategic partners. And quite honestly, they're not all within the cycling endemic either. I mean, we are working with Global Cycling Network and Box Women and Velo News, but we'll also be, VF Corporation is our title sponsor. They'll be hosting the stream on their webpage as well, and some of their brands. And Visit Denver, who is the group here, the tourism group here, who we work very closely with, will have it. The Colorado Tourism will have it on their website. So really for us, it's the more eyeballs we can get this content, this engaging and compelling and exciting content in front of, the better. The better it is for the riders, and quite honestly, the better it is for the sport. To get beyond that small niche, group of cycling enthusiasts and push this content out beyond.
Okay, this is the first question I always ask people who have very multi-hyphenate careers, and that's just if someone comes up to you at a party and doesn't know the cycling industry, has never been to your website, never been to a bike race, what do you say when they say, "Oh, what do you do?"
Well, that question is hard to answer even when I am talking to someone who's a cyclist. In fact,
Yeah.
Someone asked me that the other week when I was on a club run with a cycling club, and one of the guys who kind of knows just looked across at me and laughed, wondering what I was going to say. And I said to those cycling guys, I said, "Oh, I make YouTube videos." That seemed like the simplest thing to say. Mm-hmm. And then I guess if I had to expand on that, I'd say, well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a cyclist, but then I'd say I'm an ambassador. I make YouTube videos, and I'm also a journalist, and I mean, I'm a coach as well, but honestly, that's kind of fallen by the wayside at the moment. I don't have time to pursue coaching, but so just kind of an ambassador and vlogger, journo, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we actually probably say very similar things, except I replaced YouTube with writing books, but similar, bikes, writing, creating content. Bikes and stuff. Actually, on that note, oh my gosh, everyone should go read your About Me page on Bikes and Stuff, because it's long and hilarious. And I was just like, as I'm going through it again, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's kind of amazing how you went from, pro snowboarder into where you are now. So, I mean, you did your first race back in 2015, but you were already working as a bike messenger. You'd already been a pro snowboarder. How was that first bike race?
Oh God, so hard. Yeah, I mean, I never thought I was really athletic. I wasn't like amazing at sports at school. Having said that, though, I mean, I guess I did do quite a lot of them. But anyway, some people are really good at running. When we had to do cross country, like long distance running and stuff, it just made me want to puke, and I hated it and things like that. So I guess I didn't think I was sporty, because that's what sports were at school.
So you got into like the alternative one of snowboarding, though.
Exactly. Yeah, but then I didn't think it was sport, but of course it is. But I didn't think of it that way, and I got into snowboarding and I got into skateboarding, and I suppose the stuff that I ended up liking was more individual and slightly alternative based sports. I never got on. Sorry, let me close my emails. I never got on particularly with the traditional sports, or I hate to say it, team sports. Mm-hmm. Back to your question. My first bike race was just awful, because I used to smoke, and I still smoked at the time, and any training, and I totally underestimated how hard it was going to be. I do that quite a lot, actually. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, but I tend to go into things with quite an optimistic view of how hard it'll be. And then it often isn't. But my first road crit, I got dropped on the first lap and I rode the whole thing on my own. I tried a cross race and I actually cried because I thought I'd finished, and then they sent me on one more lap. Because, sometimes in cross, you're not entirely sure how many laps you're going to have to do.
Mm-hmm.
I went all out on what I thought was the last lap, and then they said I had to go around again. I got off the bike and I cried. But then I got back on and I finished the race. Actually, I won that race in the end. But yeah, bike racing wasn't something that I immediately found easy, but there was something I liked about it, so I just kept going back for more.
Apparently, and all different kinds too. What I loved about your cover of Bicycling back in that was February, right?
Yeah.
What I loved about that was it was this somehow it still was multidisciplinary, even though it's all cycling. But I mean, the difference between dirt jumping and fixed gear racing and road racing is pretty different. It might as well be different sports in a lot of ways,
I guess. But they all sort of similar enough that I felt like it was a kind of linear journey in a way, going from one bike to the next. They're all part of the same family, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And now it seems like you race a whole bunch of different things in one season now. So it's not just, okay, this season is all gravel or this season's all dirt jumping, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I like doing a bit of everything. I think I've got quite a short attention span. So I like to have a lot of things on the go all at once, and I like dipping into this and that and trying stuff. I would tend to say get more into one of them one particular year, and then I might slightly go off it more than a bit the next year, and focus on something else. Like this year I've got into gravel biking and I'm doing some gravel racing. I wasn't doing that last year. It's just I found I tried it and I really liked it. So I was like, well, I'll do more of that and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. So, there's not any great thought behind it either. It's just like, that looks fun. I'll try it.
I love that, though. And I mean, have you found that one discipline really works best for you as far as, racing success goes? Or are you you're just equally good at all of them?
I've always been really drawn to crits because they're short and really fast, and I found the format easy to understand, easy to get into. It's quite easy to train for crits. Well, I mean, it's hard training, but you don't have to have an enormous amount of time because a crit can be just 45 minutes long. And then I really, really like the intensity of it. It's so fast and so extreme and kind of, that's what I've always really enjoyed. But I have started doing longer format racing, and now I'm like, actually, I really, really love that. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I have to ask, with crits, how do you handle the final sprint? Because that's where I fail miserably. I can stay in a pack, no problem, but I don't have the guts to go for it in the final finishing sprint.
It's hard. I mean, just sometimes I'm like that too. Sometimes your nerves get the better of you, and you're like, "Is this really worth it? This is sketchy."
Exactly.
And then that's happened to me before. That kind of happened to me in a road race when we were sprinting for the line on Sunday. I felt really bad about that later because I was like, damn it, I had the legs, I should have gone for it. But, it's as much psychological as it is physical, isn't it? Mm-hmm. My only advice would be just do more of it. Mm-hmm. Like, the more you do, the easier it gets. I remember just absolutely bricking it on the line of crits. Like, I was so nervous. I was wearing a heart rate monitor and I was already in zone 3, just standing on the line. I was so nervous.
Yep.
And then just keep going back, and now I line up and it's like, there's that thrill of excitement. I'm not just like stone cold sort of, just not even excited, but I'm not kind of, totally freaking out and getting, really, really nervous because it becomes more normal.
Mm-hmm. So this is a terrible question because I know there's no normal week, but say you are home for the entire week. What does an average training week look like for you now, trying to kind of stay prepared for most of these different disciplines and, with so many different races on the schedule?
I would do probably about 12 hours training. I mean, it's different in summer and winter. I would do more gym stuff in the winter and less in the summer. And then, but that's like my main training. That's like race training. Or any kind of mountain biking and stuff like that. That doesn't count. That's just fun, so it doesn't count.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So I would do like 12-hour structured training. That I have a coach and he sets me that. But mountain biking is not part of that. I just go and ride for fun.
See, that's amazing because so my husband is a coach, and very often he's just yelling at clients to get their training in no matter what. So I think it's so great to hear. No, I just do that for fun. Like that's kind of why we're doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is fun. Yeah, I mean it's not always a smart thing to do. Sometimes I'm just totally exhausted because it's not really a rest day if you go out and ride your mountain bike, even if you're taking it easy. But this is the way I like living my life. And if it means that I'm not as good in a bike race, but I had a really awesome day out with my friends, well, I'm going to go out riding with my friends.
Mm-hmm. And I saw you do CrossFit, right?
Well, I mean, I only started about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. That's actually so great, though. Why?
Yeah.
Why? How's it going? Tell me.
Well, I just thought it sounded and looked fun. So I went along, and my local CrossFit gym had like a month trial where you just pay the joining fee. So I thought I'd give it a go, and I just immediately liked it, which is kind of why I didn't do it earlier, because I was worried I was going to really like it. And I'm kind of quite obsessive about things. So I was like, oh, damn, if I like that, then that's another thing I've got to try and fit in. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where I go with that. I mean, I really am short on time at the moment. So for sure, I won't be doing much more than once or twice a week with that. Because I just don't have the time or the energy.
Yeah. And I was going to get into this later, but this kind of flows very neatly into it. How has becoming a parent changed all of your training and stuff?
Oh, well, obviously it's changed it a lot. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that my husband is a bike racer too, and he's very understanding, and, we support each other in our training and racing and stuff. Unfortunately, that means we don't really get to ride together at all anymore, but we do sort of arrange things so that we can both train. We adopted our daughter, and when she first came home with us, it was almost impossible to even ride outside, and we did a lot of turbo training, and we were so exhausted from becoming new parents that you'd have thought that we didn't want to do the turbo training, but actually that kind of kept us sane. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it, and I was really, really happy to carry on training throughout that first year, and now things have settled down, and it's hard, but we make it work. We have less time and we're more tired, and we don't do perfect training. We just do as good as we can, and we don't sweat it if we can't do it. We used to stress out about that more, and now, if we couldn't do a perfect session, and now it's just like, well, whatever, at least I did something.
Yeah, and I think that's what really gets a lot of people, or like catches them out, and then they end up not training at all.
Yeah, I think people think, if you can't do it properly, or you can't do what your coach has told you to, then just not bother. It's a wasted day, and get all down about it. I'm like, well, I'll just do something, and yeah, that's better than nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so your partner being a cyclist as well, how do you balance your racing and your season goals with his goals?
Oh, it's really hard.
So I'll say, like, Peter's a bike racer, and I just kind of jump to whatever discipline I'm feeling any given year. And as a result, I end up only racing a couple times during the season because I'd rather have some free weekends, or, be at some of his races or have him at some of mine. And it's really hard to schedule it out when you have two people who want to race.
It's super hard. I mean, I kind of went ahead and booked in a few races first because, I'm getting paid by sponsors and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So Dave said, you go ahead, you've got priority, select which races you want to do, and then I'll go in and fill in the ones I want to do, and we'll sort of figure it out that way. So that was very nice of him. But yeah, it hasn't totally worked out because, races aren't all announced at the start of the season. Yeah. Things come in dribs and drabs. So Dave will he's sponsored by Marin Bikes. He races gravel for them, and they'll invite him out to a really amazing sounding gravel race, and he'll be like, "Oh, I've been invited to this thing," and then he goes onto our shared calendar, and he's like, "Oh, damn, you're already doing whatever," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry." So it's really hard, but we try and have a bit of give and take, and there's some things that I absolutely have to do because I've already agreed it with my sponsors, but other stuff I'm like, well, okay, you do your race that weekend.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like you also have made time for little family trips over the weekend that are you went camping the other weekend, which I think is so much fun. Ugh, that looked amazing.
God, it's so good. Yeah, it was our first camping trip together. Well, actually no, our first one was just a couple of nights, but this was like with all our other family members, Nana and Granddad and all that kind of thing. And it was, oh my God, it was so good. And she took her little bike with her, and just all she wanted to do was ride her bike as well. It was so funny.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Actually, any tips for parents who are in that like teaching their kid to ride a bike stage of life?
Well, all we did was we just left her balance bike lying around, and we thought, well, if she wants to pick it up, she'll pick it up. We don't want to make her ride it or any of that, It's like, and she really favoured her scooter initially, but we left this balance bike lying around, and then she's just surrounded by bikes, I suppose, so it seemed natural to her to pick it up, I suppose. But what really, really changed everything was we took her to this family bike festival at Dart River Country Park. It's down the road where I live in Devon. And they'd done this family bike festival where they had all different disciplines of cycling, and they had talks and demonstrations and bikes you could borrow. And they put on a mini race for her and her little mates on their balance bikes.
Oh.
And they loved it. And ever since then, all she's wanted to do is ride her bike.
Oh, I've seen some of those Strider races, and oh my gosh, have you seen like the championship ones?
I've seen the crazy ones. Ours was nothing like that. Yeah, I mean, my advice would be just kind of like, almost don't do anything. Mm-hmm. Like take them out on your bike when they want to go out, but for sure don't try and like force it, because I think that kind of thing backfires with kids. But yeah, now absolutely anytime she wants to go out, we're like, yep, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you've mentioned gravel a few times. I was wondering, do you have any, I kind of wanted to hit you up for some quick hit tips on all of the different cycling disciplines that you've raced in, because I mean, it's pretty much every event, and I would love to hear. So why don't we start with gravel? Any tips that come immediately to mind when it comes to racing gravel, whether you've done it once or you've done it a bunch of times?
I suppose because I ride mountain bikes, I've got a bit of an advantage on the technical section. So I would say my biggest tip with those is to just allow your bike to roll through the techie bits and don't kind of fight it, particularly when you're descending. I think people like really, really tense up and then straighten their arms. Mm-hmm. You need to kind of stay relaxed and look ahead. Don't look down. That's like the worst thing you can do. Don't look down at those horrible, scary rocks you're trying to roll over. Just look ahead, look at the trail, and try and relax.
I love that, yeah. And did I see you're doing a bikepacking race next?
Yeah, we're about to fly to Tuscany, and I'm doing Tuscany Trail, which is it's like an off-road gravel. Well, we're riding gravel bikes, but it was initially a mountain bike event. But my friends and I looked at the terrain and decided we'd be better off on gravel bikes. So yeah, it's like an unsupported sort of point-to-point race, 530k through Tuscany.
Amazing. How are you prepping for that?
Well, I've tried to do some longer rides, but obviously that's hard because of family life and work. So my coach has been putting in some sort of harder back-to-back rides, and some longer intervals in those rides and stuff. So whereas previously, he might have got me on a rest day straight after a race. Now, if I've raced, the next day I'm back out and I'm riding, like 3 hours or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Have you put like the panniers on your bike yet, or?
Yeah, well, I rode it in California. I went out there and we went bikepacking in around California in Los Padres National Forest.
Oh, such a good area.
Yeah, man, it was so good. So I've already ridden that setup, but I'm not going to take half as much stuff. I mean, it's going to be a lot warmer, and I mean, we're also thinking we're probably just maybe stay in B&Bs. I don't know. The thing is, we're trying to decide, do we want to go like super fast and super lightweight, in which case we can just take a credit card and stay in a B&B, or do we take the tent and all that shenanigans? That'll slow us right down, but then we're like camping out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough call. We've talked about that a bunch of times because we're both intrigued by bike packing, but then when you actually start thinking about how much stuff you need to camp, it's so much stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I did a bike packing trip a year ago, and I did the dumbest thing in the world of like, I overpacked the crap out of my bike. And then as soon as we hit the first tiny hill, it was like a group of people who weren't really cyclists. I was feeling like super pro and, oh, I've totally got this. We hit the first hill. I stand up to pedal. Instant wipeout.
Oh,
like,
no.
Oh my gosh. You know, cut my like shorts open. Just,
oh dear.
Oh, it was awful. And it was just, yeah. So that's my bike packing tip is don't stand up on hills. Don't overpack and don't stand up.
Yeah, I mean, the first bike packing trip that my husband and I went on in Japan, oh my God, we had so much stuff. I couldn't pick up my bike, not at all. We just, you know, I had like 5 changes of clothes or something, which is just mad. Never do that now. But, you know, you refine it as you go along. I'll probably overdo it and go entirely the other way on this trip and just have nothing.
Yeah.
Freezing and hungry. But, yeah, it's good fun figuring things out like that. And I don't think anyone ever gets it quite right. So it's always a learning process.
Yeah, definitely. You've also done a bunch of multi-day events, whether it's mountain bike or road or stuff like that. Any tips for, getting through the longer, 3-4 day type stages?
Well, this is probably a bit of a weird tip, but I don't like to really know too much about what's coming up because I
love it.
But it puts you off, like the mountain bike race I did in Iceland. It was so hard, and if I'd have truly known how hard each day was going to be, I would have been really scared. I mean, I probably wouldn't have even done it or tried. I think sometimes it's better to just go into it sort of wide-eyed and innocent and just think, oh, let's see what this is like. And, take each day as it comes. That's my main tip. And then the other one is just remember that everyone else is hurting too. Mm-hmm. So, you always think, oh, this is so hard, or I'm really slow, or I'm, in so much pain, and those people are just flying. That's rarely the case. Generally, everyone else is tired too. We're all human.
Yeah. I've definitely seen, like you don't really see the pros limping around unless you kind of look and, pay close attention, and you see them back by their tents looking completely exhausted. They're just really good at faking it at, the dinners and stuff. All right. What about mountain biking in general? What's your best tip for that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it would go back to the gravel biking tip where I'm saying about the technical sections. Mm-hmm. It's just all about staying relaxed and loose, moving around with the bike, try not to be too rigid, look where you want to go, don't look down. You want your weight back, not too far back. And I guess that's about it. And just build up progress slowly. I remember when Dave and I first started, there's this, my local bike park, Skadson Freeride Park. We went there and we were looking at this drop, and I've still got this GoPro footage actually somewhere on a hard drive. We were looking at this drop and we were like, Dave was like, oh, I don't know, should we do it? I was like, oh, I don't know. It is quite big. And I look at it and, oh my God, it's so small now. Mm-hmm. And I never thought I'd be doing the stuff that I'm doing now. But I think you just sort of build your way up to it. And before you notice it, you're there. So just sort of start off small, build your way up to it. Never say never, because at some point you'll probably do it. And it's fun making progress.
Yeah. So the jump from like fixed gear racing to road or even cyclocross, like those are that's a pretty common jump. But what made you decide to start adding all of these other bike things to your repertoire? What makes you be like, today's the day I'm going to mountain bike? Figure this out.
Oh, I'm just naturally curious, I think. I just like giving things a go, and I think, I might really like that. That might be really fun, or I might be good at that. I don't know. I'm curious, and I enjoy trying things. I've never been scared of trying stuff, Mm-hmm. I think it's just the way I was brought up. I was exposed to a lot of lot of cool experiences. You know, we traveled a lot. I did a lot of different sports and things like that. So I think, you know, my parents just brought me up to be sort of curious and not scared of trying new stuff.
Mm-hmm. Were there any sports that you were just like, nope, this is not for me, other than the team sports as previously discussed?
Well, it's not really a sport, but I hate bowling.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm just so bad at it. You know what? The sports where I'm like, no, this isn't for me. Anything that I'm not very good at. Like, if I try something and I'm not very good at it, I'm like, nah, I don't like that.
I think that's totally fair and reasonable. So you, I mean, a lot of these races are, you know, Italy, Iceland, all of this, California. So you're traveling a ton. How do you handle traveling for these races and showing up and not being completely exhausted or jet lagged, or, you know, you forgot to pack your bike somehow, or, you know, you forgot a chamois or anything like that? Travel tips.
Well, it's really hard, but firstly, I probably am actually really exhausted and jet lagged. But I mean, you're there; you just got to get on with it.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of other tips, well, I just have to write a list. I have to. I get my list on the go about a week before the event, because as I go through the week, I'll remember other things that I haven't got, and I just put it on my list. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just literally always do this. I'm doing it now for the trip that I'm going on in Tuscany. So when it comes to the day that I actually have to pack, all those things that I would have forgotten, because I would have, I've remembered, because I've had the whole week to go, oh, damn, my Wahoo, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do in order to make sure I have everything. Because, yeah, otherwise it's just, I panic and I make mistakes. And I am always tired and slightly disorganized. I try very hard to be organized, but I am quite disorganized.
I think that's the struggle of pretty much any bike racer. It's very hard to keep all of that gear in any kind of real order, especially when you're unpacking and breaking apart your bike and all of that.
I mean, the thing is as well, our house is small, like, so ideally I would have like a really organized system of all my mountain bike stuff here, mm-hmm. all my cyclocross stuff there, all my road stuff there, and it would be so easy. I could just go straight to that drawer or that cabinet or whatever, and that would be really, really nice. But, you know, it's not like that. Stuff's just everywhere.
I remember probably 10 years ago now seeing a post or a picture of Georgia Gould's like nutrition cabinet, and it was the most beautifully organized. She had a label maker and had everything like, and I was just like, this is the person that I want to be. I
aspire to that too. I aspire to that kind of thing. You know, I'm actually a bit of a neat freak with a really terribly, terribly messy house. I have to try and let it go. I want to be neat. Inside me, there's a neat person.
Yep, exactly.
He's laughing. He doesn't think I'm neat. I want to be neat.
You and I are kind of the same person in that aspect. And you know what? Honestly, when Peter is gone for like a week or something, he comes back and the house is spotless because it's just been me and I can arrange everything exactly so and only be doing my stuff moves and that's it.
Yeah, same.
When you have a couple people in the house, suddenly.
Yeah, and then add in a kid.
Oh, geez. I can't even fathom. Every time I hang out with my parent friends, I'm just like, you guys are saints and amazing humans. And like, honestly, I'm shocked when my female mom friends in this town get up at like 4 a.m. to do their runs and they all meet up and stuff. I've shown up like twice and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm not as strong as you. I'm sorry. So in terms of travel too, you've written a bunch about nutrition and what you do personally. How do you handle nutrition when you're on the road so much?
Lots of peanut butter, mainly. There's certain go-to foods that I gravitate towards, and I just have to do as best as I can. You know, it's like going back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, not getting annoyed if your workout's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're eating largely good stuff, then that's fine. So I mean, I do always take peanut butter and tea bags because you can always get some bread and bananas. So that's something decent. And I normally take oatmeal as well. Then obviously I'll have some bars or whatever. I just try and like get in some veggies when I can, and I do my best. That's about it, really.
I love bringing tea bags. I always have one in my purse. It's amazing how useful they are.
Really is good. Yeah, it makes everything seem okay when, a nice cup of tea.
Exactly. Yeah, when you're in a hotel room after like a really long day.
It's the best.
Oh, so much nicer.
Yeah.
And I mean, on that topic of nutrition, do you have an overarching like food philosophy, I'm gonna call it? I wrote a cycling nutrition book a few years ago, and I had interviewed a bunch of pros for it. And what I found really fascinating was, for the most part, all of them had sort of the same food philosophy, whether they were vegan or gluten-free or antihistamine or whatever, that came down to eating, a lot of real whole foods during the day, and then, timing their carbs and sugary stuff around their training, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like cooking from scratch, so just by doing that, you're eating much better. We don't eat ready meals. Actually, we had a pizza last night. Normally, we don't eat ready meals very often, and I cook everything from scratch, so it's healthy by default, really. And I crave vegetables, and I just have a naturally healthy appetite. That's what I love and what I want. Like if I was going to go to the supermarket and buy my favourite foods, it would be like spinach, kale, beetroot, feta cheese, eggs, brown bread. Like everything I like it's not hard for me to eat well. But I also like ice cream and chocolate and stuff too. So it's not like I'm not strict. It's just I naturally tend towards the healthy stuff. And then, with sweet and carb stuff, obviously I need that for training. So I make sure I get lots of that. Obviously I need protein too. So it's just about a healthy, balanced diet, really. It's nothing special. People often ask me about my diet, and someone asked me if I'd make a video about, how and what I shop. And I was like, yes, I can, but it's just pretty ordinary food, really. So I think that's the best idea.
Yeah, I'm now really hoping that you do a GoPro video, like with like a helmet mount cam in the grocery store, just of your cart the whole time. That would be amazing. I would watch that. I love that kind of stuff. So please do that. Okay. On the topic of like making meals at home, so many people I know and so many of Peter's clients are always saying like it's really hard to cook at home, but I mean, we are very big on the one pan meal. Ours are very, very boring. Do you have any, like, this is what we go to on a night when we just don't have time to do anything fancy? We eat a lot of these. I don't know if you have them in America. It's like a kind of ready-made pouch of quinoa and brown rice, and you just bung it in the microwave. Oh, yeah.
So it's like, so I would just heat up some quinoa and brown rice, and then I would have that with black beans, with like tomato paste, the smoked paprika and garlic and stuff. You can literally just whiz that up as well, about a minute in the microwave. Add some avocado, some raw spinach, and squeeze over some lime, something like that. I mean, literally, that's why I always sigh and roll my eyes when people say they haven't got time. I'm like, seriously, it takes like 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And we're big on, we'll just, we bought like a half cow earlier in the year, so we have tons of ground beef. We just throw a chunk of that in the oven with, chopped up potatoes, throw a ton of vegetables just on the stove on like low, just walk away for an hour, come back, and boom, meal. It's great.
Exactly, yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Exactly. So this one topic I wanted to touch on, because I'm obsessed with these kind of things. Are there any like daily rituals in terms of, I don't know, meditation, core work, anything like that you've stuck with for a long time? And I'll start by saying, in the Bicycling Magazine cover story, it opens with like a visual of you sitting down once a week with your weekly planner. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, fully. That's still a thing. And I kind of, sorry, 1 second. I can't, sorry. Let me go back to start. That's definitely a thing. Yeah, I sit down on a Sunday and I have my planner, and I kind of have blocks of time that I block out, So obviously my daughter's very young. She's still having naps and stuff, and she goes to nursery. So I would schedule in indoor training maybe during her nap, and then, I would have in the afternoon that we're hanging out or whatever, and then I would fit in some work in the block after she's gone to bed. things like that. So I do go through that and I figure out exactly when I can do stuff. And I don't always stick to it because, life. Mm-hmm. But I have a vague plan, and then I kind of sound things out with my husband as well, so that he can get in the rides that he needs to do and his work as well. In terms of daily rituals, well, not yet, no. But we're listening to some podcasts recently that made me think that I would quite like to develop some. Just on a basic note, I've started not taking my phone into the bedroom at night, because I think that's really helpful in terms of switching off and not farting around looking at rubbish on the internet and disrupting your sleep. And also I think it's really nice not to just reach for it in the morning when you wake up. So that's a new habit. The meditation thing, I'd actually quite like to start doing that. But then I thought to myself, it's going to be an added stress worrying about whether I can fit that in and when I'm going to fit it in. And that's going to be detrimental rather than beneficial. So, no, that's about it for me.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way with meditation. I actually tried to keep it on my daily to-do list for a month, but I found I was just getting really upset whenever I didn't do it. So at the moment, it's just not there. So I thought this was an interesting one. The World Health Organization I think it was yesterday, said that burnout is officially like a medically recognized condition. At the moment, it seems like you've managed to avoid that, even though, you said in the bicycling piece, I thrive on being busy. That's how I work best. I mean, that's how we started this conversation. How have you avoided the whole burnout thing?
Well, for sure I get exhausted, but I mean, burnout to me is not just tiredness. It's sort of, there's more to it than that. And I think the difference with me is that I really, really, really love what I'm doing. And so that helps. I mean, but I do get really tired, and then I just have to drop everything and just rest up. Like that happened at the weekend. I was meant to go and watch this bike race that Dave was doing, and I had all these other plans, and I was just like, I'm tired. I'm going to do the sensible thing. And I went and got a hotel room, and I spent the day, well, it's not the day, if only. I spent the evening in bed with my legs up, catching up on some emails and stuff. So, still working, but, resting up a little bit. And that's a bit of a new thing for me. Before, I would have just gone to the bike race, had some beers and cheered Dave on. But I did the sensible thing this weekend. I think that's maybe because I very rarely get to drop everything and have a break because I have a daughter now.
Yeah, and I mean, you're still putting out very consistent content. I mean, that alone, because I know what goes into making the videos that you make. How do you manage balancing that with everything else?
Well, I just do my best, really. If I want to have a week off, I'll just have a week off. And if I'm feeling really stressed, then I will I'll just have some time off. At the end of the day, I'm my own boss, so I can do that. I have certain obligations, but they tend to be obligations to sponsors that I work with. That would be as long as I'm fulfilling them largely over the year. It's not going to matter if I have a few days off and don't do anything. So I'm quite lucky in that respect. And then I try to be organised as well. So if I've got deadlines, I get everything prepared way in advance and I have it all set up and ready to go. So that makes things a lot less stressful.
And I mean, you've been, celebrated as, one of the top female YouTubers in general, YouTube cyclists, certainly. Any tips for someone who's like, I should start a YouTube channel?
I would say just get doing it. The best thing you can do is actually just start putting out content. And whilst you're doing it, you figure out what it is you want to do, you figure out what works, and you figure out what your voice is or your style. And I think consistency is really good. Just keep plugging away at it. And the other advice I would give is, it's really cheesy, but only you can do you. So the best thing about you is you and your uniqueness. And that's what people will want to see, So don't try and be anything except yourself. And that's what I would do.
I love that. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you about is obviously, the Shred Girls series and website are such big things for me right now. So I'm always, every time I talk to a rad female cyclist, I'm always like, what are your best tips for young girls who, might want to get into cycling, but don't have any other girls to ride with at the moment, or just, don't see themselves doing it?
I would say social media. You know, like people often vilify it, but it's actually really awesome if you're looking for other girls to do stuff with. Some of the mountain bike friends that I ride with, we connected through social media. One girl, my friend Laura, she saw that we kept riding the same place on Strava, and she just sent me a message saying, "Hey, I saw that you ride this downhill place. Do you want to ride together next time?" I was like, "Yeah, cool." Facebook has, you know, different groups and stuff like that. So I would say have a look and see if you can find any groups that are local to your area. There always are, you know, mountain bike groups or road groups or whatever. If there aren't groups, start one, you know. And yeah, just try and connect with other people in your area. In my experience, nearly all other women and girls want other females to ride with. They all do. We all want more women to ride with. So I think, you know, it's you don't need to be intimidated about turning up to a ride with a bunch of women you've not met before, because nearly every time they really, really want you to be there and they're excited to meet you and ride with you.
Yes, 100% yes. It's always the coolest when I, you know, get to ride with these, you know, young teenage girls and just see them meeting each other for the first time a lot of the times, and seeing those connections get made, and just seeing, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, there are other girls around me that actually ride, and it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just think wouldn't it be great if there were more female role models for them to see, more visibility? I think that's what we need to change to make a real difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, that's part of why I started the Shred Girl site, is to get more of these like real life Shred Girl stories out. So there is a place where they can see them, because I mean, so many bike publications are, you know, pretty male focused, we'll say.
Oh, big time. And yeah, the sports pages, I just sort of sigh every time I open them up. It's just literally nothing but men. You're like, seriously, still? Like,
it's 2019.
Progress, yeah.
Yes, but I mean, at least bicycling have finally put more women on the cover, and you know, your cover was awesome.
I mean, I was so nice to read that issue that I was on the cover of. It was just so many women, and it wasn't a women's issue. It was just a bike magazine, and it's like, well, of course there are women in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, you know, the problem is like whenever you call it a women's issue, it's like, yeah, that's all well and good, but you know, I mean, A, we're in the sport all year round, and then B, you know, there's plenty of men that are like, oh, it's the women's issue.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why does it have to be a special issue so we're allowed in it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much all of the questions I had for you, but tell everyone where they can follow you if they're not already, because if they're not, they definitely should be.
Oh, thanks. Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram at instagram.com/Juliet Elliot. And I'm on Twitter. I think it's _Juliet Elliot. YouTube is Juliet Elliot's channel. It's a bit complicated. They're all different. And then you can find my blog at bikesandstuff.com. It's bikes-stuff.com. Yeah. Maybe I should go ahead and buy my own URL. I don't know, but I've had that for so long now. I kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, I have the same thing I have the same thing with Shred Girls too, because it's shred-girls.com, and I always feel a little silly saying it, but I mean, it would have been thousands of dollars
it's not silly as mine.
Exactly.
Bikes hyphen stuff.
I love it. Bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. This was awesome. Thanks so much for tuning into the Consummate Athlete podcast. You can check out my stuff over at theoutdooredit.com or by following me on Instagram and Twitter at Molly J. Herford. And you can check out Peter's coaching, training plans, blogs, all that fun stuff over at smartathlete.ca or by following him on Twitter and Instagram at Peter Glassford. And if you want to support this show and other awesome podcasts, please check out wideanglepodium.com for show info, other podcasts, bonus content, and to become a donating member so you can get all of that rad behind the scenes content and help keep shows like this on the air. And lastly, if you're enjoying this podcast and all the information that we're bringing to you every single week, do us a solid and pop into iTunes to leave us a rating and review. It takes you about 2 seconds. You can do it on your computer, you can do it on your phone, and it really helps us out. Thanks so much, and we will see you next week.